Hello, listeners, and welcome back to SocioCast'20. With housing and real estate showing us silver lining in our last episode, Enactus Hansraj is back again with another powerful episode. I'm sure most of you listeners, or probably your kids or students, are scratching their heads with 100 questions. Will the internships happen? How will the exams take place? Will the curriculum change? Are the placements going to happen? And if yes, when? Should we apply abroad? When will the session start? Are online courses useful? But most importantly, how to use this time productively? Well, need not worry, as today we have with us Mrs. Gurupriya Mishra, a Harvard University graduate, to answer all your doubts. Ma'am is an educational specialist and consultant at the World Bank. So before you all bring your noting pads, I would like to introduce my co-host for this episode, Mr. Tejas Agarwal, to proceed with a question and answer segment.
Thank you, Prakshi. We are indeed happy to have you here with us today, ma'am. So let's get started. One important question that our audience has been wanting to know is that with in-person classes being suspended, e-learning has now emerged as the need of the hour. Don't you think that this has exposed a digital divide between the ones who have the resources and the ones who have not?
Absolutely. I think there are several things to consider here. It's not just a function of divide between those who have resources and those who don't, but also between those who know how to use those resources and those who don't. So I think the divide is on both the sides, where you have children and students who don't have the resources to continue remote learning and learn from home, but you also have teachers and educators on the other side who may not be as familiar with using Zoom technology or any technology of remote working and telecommuting. So I think there's definitely a divide which has been exposed, and this I mean, we knew the future was going to be digital, but I don't think we were prepared for how quickly all of this would unfold. We were all doing just fine in February, and in March everything shut down. So we had to think on our feet and take actions. But yeah, I absolutely agree. There is a great divide between those who can access and use technology and those who can't.
Yes, definitely, ma'am. We all know that integration of technology in education, especially in countries like India, has been a problem since generations and decades now. And with this pandemic being on hold, we have actually witnessed what problem will we feel in the future if we still are not able to incorporate ourselves well with technology, and not only incorporate ourselves, but ensuring that we are the right ones who can use technology in the proper manner. Ma'am, now moving on to the second question. In your opinion, has Corona exposed a dire need of a severe curriculum switch? And do we need to review our traditional teaching practices to hold students' attention and interest even over distances now, and not just under pressure in a conventional classroom?
That's a great question. I think there are two or three issues here. There is one issue of course, the curriculum itself, in terms of how ambitious it is and what all is it that we try to achieve in an academic year, and be that at any level, be it at the K-12 level or at the higher education level. And secondly, it's the transaction of that curriculum. So, for example, I'll give you a very rough example of you teaching a grade 3 child how to do addition with carryover. Now, that's a simple learning standard that you want to achieve. Now, you can have many ways of transacting that particular form of learning standard. What I think COVID-19 has exposed is how the delivery of our curriculum is something that would need a rethinking. The curriculum itself is fairly age appropriate and relevant. Well, some of it relevant for what the students need, but I think the delivery of that curriculum is something that needs a complete overhaul, because there are some aspects of the curriculum which lend themselves very easily for like online instruction, which is largely teacher led and in sort of like a lecture mode. So I feel if you're shifting that from the classroom to an online platform, it's fairly easier because you just continue. It's just that the place has changed in that dialectic. However, where the challenge that has come up is in the experience of that form of learning. And the higher you go up in fact, at any level of learning, the more experience and hands-on the learning is, the better it is. That's how you move away from rote learning to like higher order learning. So I think where where the where the holes have been identified is really in the delivery and transaction of that curriculum. But of course, technology, it's a great friend of ours, but it also poses a lot of challenges. It's really hard for any individual to just sit in front of a machine for 8 hours and be productive, right? Even when you went into college or you went into your classes or you went into work, you took time off, you took a break, you took a coffee break, you talked to your colleagues, you caught up with what was happening in the world. But I think just sitting in front of a machine for 8 hours is taking a toll on a lot of individuals. And I think what it's also highlighting is work stretches to fill time. I feel people are more productive now that they're working from home, and they're able to wrap up their assignments a lot quicker, and students are able to finish their assignments a lot faster working from home. But yeah, I'm not sure if that was the answer you were looking for, but yeah, those are my thoughts.
Definitely, ma'am. Very much on point. We too feel that the educational administration now needs to do a lot bit of their part to ensure that delivery of education to students and to all of the pursuance of education in the days to come is well and is befitting and it serves the desired purpose. To continue, ma'am, our audience would now like to know about where shall students begin choosing courses, internships, etc. that are available online and what aspects should they target? What is the value of skill-based courses and work from home internships for a student in today's time?
That's a great question. I think this is going to be a huge challenge moving forward because I think the whole idea of an internship is to get that hands-on training and that hands-on experience. And in the absence of that right now, it's going to be really challenging, and it's going to differ from industry to industry, right? For example, if you're looking for an internship in say management consulting, and you want to sort of work at like a McKinsey or one of those things, their bread and butter is from these meetings and these online sort of things. I'm simplifying things, but the bread and butter of management consulting is in doing a lot of analytics, doing a lot of data processing, which can be done sitting anywhere in the world. You could be sitting in your room, you could be sitting in a company office, or you could be sitting in a Starbucks down the road. But there are other sectors where it requires more more interaction and more working. If I were to think of an example from the top of my head, sales and marketing is something which is going to be really challenging to do it from sitting in your room and following the norms of social distancing and those kind of things. So I think the approach is going like how you go about finding these internships and what is meaningful has to be very industry specific. And I think internet is our best friend right now. I think the starting point has to be where you have to start doing desk research and secondary research. I think a good option, I always advise students, is to talk to alums and find out where your alumni are working, and people who've done courses similar to you or who have training similar to you, reach out to them and talk to them looking at internships. And I think the model that you guys follow is which is of finding people off of LinkedIn. I think that's a great model because reaching out to people over the internet is difficult, but I feel LinkedIn and platforms such as LinkedIn give you that space to build those professional networks. But yeah, like I said, conversations with seniors and people in the sector has to be the starting point to finding the right internship.
Definitely, ma'am. The internship process and the recruitment process for interns will now take a change hold, seeing Corona and a post-pandemic corporate world that we all are going to witness soon. And there will be differences in processes of recruiting interns, how they work, the models that they are fit into in corporate sector, and what value addition can they make to the team and to the company at large. Continuing further, ma'am, students eyeing at foreign universities are now worried that their dream college may reject international applicants altogether. Rising layoffs has also made the international job market very bleak. Some students are now mulling over whether if a foreign degree is now worth equally good as it used to be before Corona. Ma'am, is this the start of a downward trend for international students in foreign universities? If it is so, how long will this last?
I don't think it's a downward trend. I think what might end up happening is the market might open up more for international students, because from what I'm hearing from Howard itself and some of the other universities is that universities are moving to an online curriculum for the next academic year. For example, the course that I did at Howard, they've moved the entire academic year online. Of course, there are pros and cons to it, but I think I don't think it's going to be a downward trend. However, I think it is going to be challenging because COVID has not just stopped our lives; it's affected the economy significantly, and I think. That there is a recession coming in, like you rightly said. It's not coming, it's here. There are layoffs that are happening. Companies can't afford to hire people. And when layoffs happen, our instinct is to go back to studying. But I think the decision to go back to school or to get a higher degree is a very individualistic one, because it depends on A, what degree you're trying to get, B, how you're going to financially support it. For example, if I had to apply to Howard this year, I would be very happy taking the classes online, because you do save on the cost of living in Cambridge, Massachusetts for an entire year. However, what you lose out on is the experiences. And honestly, higher education is more about perspective building and networking, and I think and the experience of learning. So um, while technology and doing everything remotely and online is helpful and it's helping move business forward, I don't know how valuable it is in giving the students the necessary experiences that you gain. Going by my own personal experience, I think the maximum learning that happened for me, the year I spent in Cambridge, was outside the classroom. It was the discussions that we had while we were doing those assignments. How are you going to do those when you are across 17 different time zones? So I think while the question of are universities going to stop accepting foreign students, I think that is no. I think the Howard Ed School has actually reopened its admission process, so it's making it more accessible to students who probably didn't get in the first time around. But is the experience going to be the same? Probably not. So I think that those are some things that we have to consider.
Very much on point, ma'am. It will be indeed be very, very interesting to witness what trends will international students adopt to go to foreign universities, and at the same time the approach of foreign educational administration with regard to accepting these international applicants. To continue
Mm.
further, as the current pandemic has made technology in education an absolute necessity, how much are our teachers and students prepared to incorporate it into the present form of everyday learning and teaching? Moreover, what does the future hold for the constant debate of teachers being replaced by technology?
That's a tricky one, but it's one of my favorite questions. I feel everything said and done, technology can never replace the one-on-one interaction and the human interaction that takes place between the teacher and the learner. So that's always been my stand. It's a fairly unpopular opinion, but I do not think technology can replace an individual in the classroom. It can supplement that learning, but it definitely cannot replace the individual. Having said that, I think teaching and learning going forward will incorporate more and more learning. For example, 4 and 5 year olds the world over right now who are about to start their education journey are starting their kindergarten or KG lessons online right now. It's a very different generation from what my generation was 30 years ago when we started schooling. They do 1 hour online lesson, they do 1 hour of online activity, but they don't know their friends. They don't know how to play with someone in the yard, how to like build sand castles. So I think it's going to be a very different form of learning. But I think technology will have to supplement reading. I mean, it's going to be slow, but we will get back on our feet and we will get back in the world. But I think it's going to be a challenge. And I think what it would also require is on the other side is those of us who are not so comfortable with technology have to incorporate more and more into our classrooms. So teachers who did not use technology in their classrooms now have to, even if it is say a webinar or like an online lesson, and you have to have new techniques and a new sort of uh, um, repertoire of activities that you can to keep your students engaged. So it's a whole new learning curve of how is it that we use technology and interact with it in our learning experience.
Very much on point, ma'am. History has been a testimony to this fact as to how teachers can never be replaced no matter how advanced we become in terms of technological upgradation. We feel that technology and teaching and individual teaching are individually exclusive, but at the same time they are mutually exhaustive. Moving on,
Yes.
good private schools and top colleges are now barely getting through online teaching. This has exposed educational sector's crack in handling such a situation and crisis. In your opinion, what kind of infrastructural changes should educational institutes incorporate to go further?
That's a great question. I think the top end private schools, at least in India, I can speak to what's happening in India right now. It's the parents who end up covering that cost. For example, if you're studying in an IB school and you have your assignments that are given to you and you have to do them on your iPad and submit it and email to your teacher, the iPad that the student uses is not funded by the school. It's the cost of it is weaved into the overall tuition cost, education cost that parents have to bear. So I don't think the private schools were equipped. In fact, no school was equipped to handle the kind of challenges that COVID-19 brought forward. But I think what it has also done is made transparent the higher costs of private education. Parents are willing to spend that extra money because they have the purchasing power and they have the disposable income and they want to invest in their children's future. But I think the cost, you have to rethink the cost of private education while it was delivered one-on-one and in person, and how it is now being delivered online. For example, say you're paying I don't know, 2 lakh rupees a month. It's just a random figure. I don't know what private school fees are in India right now. But for your child's education, and do you think you're getting, like, every parent would question, are they really getting the return on their investment with this kind of thing? So I think, I mean, it's everyone's saying that we have to rethink everything, but that is the fact. Things are changing rapidly. It's an ever-evolving situation. We don't know. We didn't think we'd be here when this all started in February, but we've made it this far. We move forward, yeah, the future of work and the future of learning is going to look very different 6 months from now than what it is today.
Exactly, yes, ma'am. We all will witness sooner or later as to what changes do educational institutes adopt, how do it do it, and how soon they do it. Because unless they undergo some massive changes with regard to infrastructural upgradation and framework building, will not be able to sustain education in a post-pandemic world where social distancing will be the need of the hour. With this, we come to the end of official series of questions. It was indeed kind of you, ma'am, to share your thoughts on such a pressing matter as education, which actually concerns a host of people. Before officially wrapping up the episode, ma'am, do you wish to make some concluding remarks for our audience?
Yes, I think the only remark I like to make for students is just hang in there. It should get better. Things do improve, and um, um, if anything that can improve our lives, it's our education. So I think we should continue to take it seriously and continue to invest in it for as long as we can. So all the best with all of your efforts, and I also wanted to congratulate all 4 of you in pulling this together and organizing this. I think it's a great initiative, and I want to congratulate you on doing it so well.
Thank you very much, ma'am. This marks the end of the third episode of SocioCast'20. I would like to thank Ms. Mishra on behalf of Enactus Hansraj for taking out time from her busy schedule and providing us with a valuable inputs on the topic.
Thank you, ma'am, and Tejas for this wonderful segment. Enactus Hansraj hopes to have created some sort of clarity, and if you enjoyed this episode, stay tuned for the next one and keep safe.